Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Lamdin grew up in Sussex, is the founder of BestAgent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. So be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class. If you've not been watching my videos, I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff. Good afternoon. Welcome to the office of Carringtons Estate Agents in Kingston, where I am live with two of the team here, who I'll introduce you to in just a minute, where we're going through the results for their business for the month of May. We last did this a month ago. I haven't done this on the Moving Home with Charlie channel before. I've normally done it on the Best channel for agents, but I want the public to see this as well, because back at the beginning of the year, Carringtons got in touch and said, corporate overvaluing estate agents are killing us. And either we have to knowingly overvalue to win business, and then it's too expensive to sell, or even when we're taking second-hand instructions, we're still having to agree to prices higher than we would ideally like, and it's still nearly impossible to sell them. Will you help? So I said yes. And it's now, I began advising them in February, and my golden rule was you're not allowed to give a valuation anymore. When someone asks how much is my house worth, or how much is my house for, you have to say don't know. And we had some interesting discussions to begin with, but to their enormous credit, they actually have gone through with it. Now there are some certain exceptions when there are chains involved, that kind of stuff, but generally speaking, the approach is nobody knows what your house will actually sell for until you create a market for it, and then the market will tell you what the house will sell for. The results so far have been astonishing, even better than I had expected, both in terms of how fast they're selling things and the prices that they're achieving for them. And slowly now word is getting out, it's starting to get busier, and we're going to run through the results for May, specifically for the benefit of other agents who are tempted by the idea of no longer lying to people about what their house is worth to get business, and then being able to sell houses in much shorter time. Anyway, enough from me. I'm going to start by introducing you to, right, there's Jess on the right and Alex on the left. I'm just saying, hi Jess, hi Alex.
Hello.
I'm just going to double check the audio is okay. Say hello again.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Cool, right, I think, can everybody who's watching here, can you all say hi and tell me if you can hear Alex and Jess? Right, okay. So first of all, Jess, you actually have been away from Carringtons for a few months.
Yeah.
And you, I think just the first day I was here back in February, it was just about when you were heading off somewhere else for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been back here for a few weeks.
Yep, 2.5 weeks.
And I've got no idea what you're going to say to this, but what difference have you noticed about the approach that Carringtons is taking to selling houses?
Honestly, it's been incredible in that it's so refreshing to be able to go into properties and actually just say, I'm sorry, I cannot put a value on the property. The market will dictate. And it's been hard, it's been hard to sort of get my head around. I think the whole team will agree. Even when we're talking to vendors, same thing, that what do you mean you can't give me a price? What do you mean you don't know the value? But honestly, the results that we have seen from going through this process, from really actually letting the market dictate the interest that we've created, the demand it's created, has been astonishing. And even on launch days where we've had between 15 and 27 viewings in one day, I've been speaking to buyers
So
where
15 to 27 viewings
27
in
one day.
day.
That's a lot of up and down stairs. And but you know, equally, I think a lot of buyers out there, you know, they can't believe it. When I'm telling them, you know, you're the 15th person, what do you mean? You know, normally, and I think from what they expect, they're one of 1 or 2 viewings in a day. So to be one of 15, they sort of sit up and quite alarmed that we've managed to create this much interest.
Well, you're creating a market for each property, aren't you? That's
Absolutely,
the point.
yeah.
And then letting the market do its thing. You haven't got to exaggerate or manipulate anything. You genuinely just create the market.
Genuinely.
And so what we have actually touched on though is the fact, you know, what's the big difference in this approach in terms of the pricing strategy?
Well, I mean, it's the biggest difference is we are not having to overvalue. We're not going in to win business. In essence, in actual fact, when people trust, and now we have the results to be able to say, look, you come on board with this process, we're going to drive those results for you. And not only are we going to save you months of anguish, emotional anguish, and you know, oftentimes tidying, hoovering the house for each sporadic viewing, we have managed to, in every instance, carry out 1 open day, a following week of second viewings, because we recommend, you know, coming back and just being very sure, and then we're generating offers, and the process this is happening within a month. It's not 4 months, 5 months.
Isn't it average 19 days to under offer from launching the property to under offer is now an average of 19 days on pretty much everything.
Everything.
I wish people could let that sink in. People who are watching this, right? The typical out there in the industry is that properties on the market for months before they go under offer.
Yeah.
And you're getting them under offer in days, a few weeks, and then they're going on to hopefully exchange very quickly. But we'll come on to that in a second. Okay, so we've got a question that's coming from someone watching live who says, I'm curious, if you don't give the client a value, how are you marketing the property? When the client says, what price will we market this on Rightmove? Well, I'd like to answer that question. Well, I'll let you guys answer the question, but let's go through the numbers for May first. Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to just shoot off the top of your head for what's happened in the month?
Yeah, of course. So since we last spoke, we've agreed 5 deals, total value at 55,000, so £11,000 on average a deal, which is higher than our normal average, which is great.
So for the agents watching this, you're getting a higher fee in less time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the best comparison I can give you is exactly this time last year, Charlie, because I came back to this company end of February, beginning of March last year. And my number one goal and outset, having been in a state agency for as long as I have, my mindset coming into it, having had 2 years off, was I'm going to dominate Kingston and do it the only way I know how, which is I'm going to take over the stock. And in May, you can go and look at these figures as well. I think I had 28 new instructions in May last year. Blew the competition out of the water. We were number 1 on the stock market share. Looks great, sounds phenomenal. I can go back and look at those figures, and Jess was sitting with me in May and June, and I can guarantee you we didn't do £55,000 worth of business from those 28 instructions. So the numbers of instructions have typically gone down. The quality level of instructions is what's really important. You're working with people that are listening to the message, which is, do you want to sell? Simple as that. And kind of in a roundabout way, answering that question about value, you're asking the person, are you looking to sell, or are you looking for a figure that you've made up? Yeah. It's really as simple as that, because I can't give you that figure. Every other person who's giving you that figure is making it up just like you. That is the only truth. Yeah. So we can discover it together, and you can start on the basis of trust and transparency, which is that I don't know, and we will discover it together, and here's all the proof of what we've done. And yeah, it's quite phenomenal, really. Getting instructions for the first time with someone not agreeing to a figure, it's quite an empowering feeling as well.
That's amazing.
It's daunting, but it's
So
phenomenal.
There'll be lots of agents watching this thinking, sorry, what? You're getting instructed without a value.
Yeah.
You're getting
Yeah.
instructed before you've even agreed a launch marketing price.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And the mantra that I use is no keeping valuations.
Yes.
Right. Let the market, because the market decides.
Yeah.
And I say to sellers on my channel a lot, you might think you know what you want, and you might think you know what it's worth, but the market doesn't care about either of those things.
Absolutely.
I suppose a lot of sellers watching this are going to be thinking, what if no one views?
Well,
So what's the difference in the process? Because people are going, hang on a second, if this is so great, why doesn't everyone do it?
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So to come back to the stats and to answer that question, another important stat is we've taken on and actually listed this month. As in terms of listings that have gone live online, which agents will understand, it's only 2.
Yep.
But we've had 8 total instructions, so 6 are still to come on board.
So they're in the pre-market phase.
They're in the pre-market phase, and this is the most important phase to answer your question, which is, as you've highlighted, is that entrance price, that level in which you list the property, is the most important decision you will make at that point in setting up the process. So unlike other agents where all they seem to be doing is talking about speed of listing, I can get this on within 24 hours. My photographer can be here and we can rush it onto the market. Well, once you step back from that and realize actually we've got one chance to market it and get it right, this is the most important decision we will make. It is a process and a journey. And part of that process and journey in terms of discovering that price is potentially bringing around off-market or pre-viewings with well-qualified buyers that are already on your database. And again, not lying to the client. They will ask you questions like, what does that person's budget have in town? And we've discussed all of these things, and again, it will bring those conversations to light, but it will only bring you back to the important point, which is that it's a process and it's trusting that process, and this is what we're looking to achieve, is creating your own market. So the proof is in the pudding behind us with the success rate that we've had, and that's all that we can showcase someone, is we don't get it wrong. Here's the proof and the evidence of, but further to that point is we're not going to rush it. So that's why you'll know you're in very good hands here. We want the same result as you, which is to get viewings, because that's what will guarantee you offers and therefore selling. We want the same thing as you. We don't want what other agent wants, which is to appease you to a price that you want to hear and then get you no viewings. It doesn't benefit us or you.
We're almost condensing, that the time is very intense, that period, where we're dealing with all those viewings, then the incoming offers, then managing those negotiations. It's a lot of work in a short amount of time, and when we're doing that across 3 or 4 properties, we're really we're really working hard.
I think a really good way of explaining it, and the phrase that we've used, is to a lot of our clients, because you do get this question come up as well, is what's the right amount of time to list my property for? How do I know I've achieved maximum value? All of those sort of questions. And what we're getting people to agree to from the outset is if we can demonstrate to you over 15, 20 viewings within a 2 to 3 week period, multiple offers, and those offers competing against each other, driving each other up. At that point, if you're in agreement that we've created its own market and we've found the maximum value, if you're getting them to agree to that without a price, they've bought into the process. And that's what we're looking to achieve here. But what we're saying to owners who possibly think that because we get this as well is, you're just pricing properties low to sell them. Well, we're doing 6 months worth of marketing within a 4 week period. This is all the work that I used to do for the last 9 years. I'm just not spread thin. Do you want me to focus on your property 1 hour a week for the next 6 months and get the same result in 6 months' time, or a better result, quicker, faster, and money in your account? It makes complete sense. And it means we can also, as a team, very quickly identify, right, we know we've got these 3 listings going live in the next week. We can, and we do have the manpower to make sure that we've got the phones, that we've got cover in the office, all of these intricate details which happen. And as we know with bigger agencies or more spread, there's so many fingers and so many different pies. They're just answering as they can and reacting to, rather than being proactive to.
Okay, so there'll be cynics watching this going, yeah, it sounds too good to be true. Come on, what aren't you telling us? What aren't you telling us? Where's it gone wrong? Where has it? And I mean, going through the numbers with you guys today, every property that you've brought to the market using this process has gone under offer. Is that right?
Yes.
Every single one, 100%. So you've got a 100% success rate of sale agreed. Okay, then we've got to get to exchange, and that's obviously the conveyancing and the sales progression progress, and some of this is starting to happen now. Okay, how many fall throughs have you had then?
So, well, as of today, we've had 1 official fall through.
And what caused that?
So we were days away from exchange, buyer transferring money, so on and so forth. We got a heartbreaking email today, obviously something the buyer's been considering for the last few days, just due to their personal circumstances and profession. It's been hit by external factors in the economic world, and they've just had to make a gut-wrenching decision. And they're £4,000 or £5,000 into this process. They've got 2-3 surveys. As committed as we could possibly see, there are still elements of this process that are not completely foolproof, and that's why we're saying, and our target is 90% completion by 2026. We know it's not ever going to be 100%. We will do our best to move those motions. So, you know, as of right now, we've got one official fall through. We're anticipating all of the same issues that we've previously had, because we've been there, we've done that. We can try and put fail safes in place, and one thing that we're doing and learning in this process and improving upon all the time is each new instruction we're taking on, we're learning from the last one and what's happened and how they can, again, just make themselves as watertight as possible. It's never going to be perfect because the system is broken, but we can fix as many things as we possibly can to give you the best chance. And that's where we're at. And luckily, with that same fall through, because of a provision we put in place with the legals and the conveyancing, we've got a situation whereby they have an exchange ready contract. So that's fallen through. Typically a year ago, we'd be sitting here going, well, that's £11,000 fee that was going to exchange now, that's probably going to be pushed back in the pipeline another 3 to 4 months. Find a new buyer, redo all the conveyancing. That's where we are. We're in a very fortunate position. It's still frustrating for all parties involved, but we could find a buyer tomorrow or this weekend, reintroduce them with the same legal team, and they have an exchange ready property within 2.5 weeks. So even the fall through, we're just substituting the buyer and it's still exchange ready. That buyer just needs to get their finances organised.
You anticipate that for the seller, this might only end up being a 1 month delay?
Yes, because 2 reasons. Coming back to our original process, we know the price is correct because we had bidding parties on the property. We still have parties that we can go back to. We're not just in a position where we're negotiating with one person. They were the only person seemingly who would pay this ludicrous price. We have a market for the property. So we're going to have to go back to those buyers, do all of the typical things that agents do. But we're very confident, even if we have to relaunch online, the price is probably correct and where it needs to be. And from there, we can secure another buyer and just get their finances sorted. And we should only be 2-3 weeks away from exchange again. So not be all and end all.
Would you just clip that onto the other side, not next to the zip, because someone's maybe commented it?
Sorry, guys.
Just there. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, apparently it was rubbing on the zip and sounded like you did.
Sorry, guys.
Someone said sounds like he's rustling a Kit Kat wrapper.
I wish I was.
Okay. So, I mean, I imagine the other thing, like all the things you don't have to do anymore, that you like.
Vendor management gone out the window.
So what does that mean? Pinning,
well,
vendor
because you're so much.
What is vendor management?
Well, so much of my day before, in the 8-9 years of doing this, was prospecting, getting new leads, getting new people in, managing your current pipeline, and then the stock that you have on, and just making sure your clients are still happy, still serviced. I'm really sorry we haven't had any viewings for you this week. The team's going to work really hard. Or we haven't had viewings, and it just became constant. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Bullshit. And just constant listening to stuff around you, and because of this going on in the external, the markets, and you get and all this owner ever wanted was to sell then and there. That's what they were screaming out for, and you were just constantly putting them on the back burner and go, just wait, we'll get there, and or talking about price reductions and how we can get there quicker, and horrible conversations all round, and just not leading anywhere, and constant cycle. Whereas you're setting this up correctly. Trust me on the entrance price. What you list for doesn't matter. It's what you achieve that matters. Therefore, give me free rein on that and let me do my job. It's a much easier process than and because you're setting out very clear, easy timescales and delivering on everything that you're saying. There is no vendor management because you've just done everything you said you're going to do, and you haven't got anyone calling you going, why hasn't this been done? Why hasn't this been done? Why isn't this?
Yeah, no one's getting irate.
It's the other way around. It's like, wow, everything you said you're going to do has been done.
Yeah.
So there's no, we come into work and like today was one of the worst days we've had in the last 4 months, because of that fall through. There's another little wobble with an incomplete chain that could potentially swing something as well. All normal stuff that we're going to have to deal with. But I'm just not in a position where I'm as panicked as I would have been 12 months ago, because it's just slowly building and improving constantly.
Fantastic. So, of all the properties that you've listed under this process, have you had to do any price reductions?
No, other than old stock that we updated them on. Yeah,
yeah.
no.
So stuff we had on before we started doing this, you've had to talk to some of those guys, but everyone that's come to the market new, no price reduction.
So far.
There'll be estate agents watching this going,
Mm.
I'm so jealous. You don't have to call people and talk them down and upset them and piss them off and
Yeah.
lose their instruction.
I mean, it's a fine art getting the launch price.
Well, I was about to come on to that.
Correct.
To challenge any agent out there that's doing this, if you've got senior valuers or managers in your office, we did it today because we're not valuing anymore. 3 of us walked around, myself, Jess and Andy, to a property that we're taking on that has come on with this same process and thought that we are going to discover the market value. And none of us discussed the property beforehand. I just for fun, let's all pick our figure of what we would launch at. All 3 of those prices came out at a £300,000 difference. We all work in the same office. And each of us could have made a case as to why we could be right. And none of us are wrong. You could all be right. But the reality is that launch and an entrance price has to be right to guarantee that you are getting as much interest as possible to get the highest amount possible.
So we've got now someone else saying, come on, you haven't asked the question. Can you get them to clearly outline the process in terms of pricing? It's still unclear. Are they assuming that people view houses they think they can afford? Interesting question. So no, you're not. That's nothing to do with it, is it? So let me just introduce this and then let you answer it, which is that you're going to sellers and saying, we don't know what this is going to sell for, so we're not going to put a number on it. We have a process that we work through before coming to the market where we work out the sweet spot to get that launch price absolutely spot on. And when spot on, you get queues of people coming through the door.
Yeah.
And you then begin the process with the vendor who's gone, okay, so there isn't a number you're just plugging out of the air. We actually have to figure out the number together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk through an example of how that works?
Well, I mean, it's to that person, it's when you're breaking down your own valuation and you arrive at a figure, the same ways in which you arrive at it, they're all just data points. They're things that we look at as well. What's recently sold, what's currently on the market as competition. But yes, when we're showing off-market viewings or people that want to view the property, you're almost going back to old school agency, forgetting about prices and just matching people to property because they are the people that are going to buy the property. And with respect, we all know this as well. Buyers will lie. They won't ever tell you exactly what their budget is. I've had people buy for significantly more than they told me on the original call. I've had people buy for significantly less. What we know is all buyers will try and get the lowest price they possibly can get for themselves. That's fine. We're trying to create an environment in where that's impossible for them to do so. And there is so much competition that if they want the property, they have to bid for it.
And I think everyone, sees value in different aspects in property. And this is going back to, what I was saying with values, well, I see this as a 1.3 and, the other one was a 1.1. I mean, how vast a gap can you get? And equally, on one of the launch days, I had a couple that came in and they said, wow, this is so much better than the pictures that we've seen online. It's so much bigger and brighter. And I was like, that's a fantastic comment. And then equally on the same afternoon, other people said, oh, it looks a bit darker and smaller. So yeah, honestly, I mean, there it is, plain daylight.
You alluded to, but I want to expand on this point, that you sometimes will show buyers around a property before it's gone public on the market with no discussion of price.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think this is amazing, and that's you've got those buyers because you are qualifying buyers properly. You're talking to them. You know exactly who they are, so you know who to call and bring around before it comes to the market. So you're not relying on portals to generate interest. You've got some interest that helps you inform that launch price. And I think with one of the first ones, didn't you end up selling it off market? The people you showed around. Yeah, and
that's a really good example because again, to question value or what is value and how, to the person who asked the question, how you value a property, that property was in a small development of 40, 50 houses that are all sort of the same build roughly. And we just sold one on the market and I think it was listed at 760 and we'd sold it for 750 within £10,000 of the guide price. And this was pre the process that we're talking about, that we had on that property because we priced it correctly, 20 odd viewings, and again pre-process, so we knew we had a market for it. This landlord approached us and said, I would sell for the right price, don't really want to list it or anything, do you have a market for it? And it so happened that with these conversations with Charlie, we did. between those two properties, they sold within a week of each other. The one that we sold for 750 was in much nicer condition, ready to move into. The other one was a rented property that needs lots of work doing to it in objectively much worse condition. It got £10,000 more in a marketplace 2 weeks later. From my perspective as an agent, and I'm sure from many of you, you would just look at that objectively and go to a lot of buyers, they'll probably pay less for this because it needs work. They paid £10,000 more for a property that needed work. Who are we to ever dictate what the value is to a buyer? People will pay what they're willing to. Your sole purpose is to get the owner the most amount of money possible, and it's really, really simple. Create a market for the property. At the end of the day, if you are negotiate, you get the same questions from all buyers that see property. I had it for 9 years. How many viewings have you had? How many offers have you had? What sort of interest have you had? And inadvertently, you end up lying, white lying, creating interest, talking about previous offers. And it's all so easy for a buyer to just see through because they're having the same conversation over and over again with other agents. When you're saying with complete confidence and chest, because it's not a lie like Jess's, we've had 20 viewings here today. Here's my sheet. If you leave here, you'll still see me in 3 hours. I'm still at the same property. Yeah, and it's not a lie. It's creating what we're calling reasonable urgency. You're saying for this property, listen, it's going to be on the market for this amount of time. By this date, it will be off. This is when we're concluding negotiations. If you like it, make an offer.
Yeah, I mean that's another good point actually. When we're in the offer stages and we're still receiving inquiries on those properties, I'm really sorry, but it's only been on the market like 2 weeks. What do you mean? Quite amazed, we're going to be browsing through, or don't expect to look at our properties and see them on for more than a couple of months. I mean, that's what we're hoping for. We want them to come in and go out.
But it is a surprise for those buyers because everyone else is overvaluing, sticking on for months and months and months. And I suppose you've got to actually find a way to make your buyers aware of that at the beginning. They're going to think it's estate agency guff, right? But it isn't.
It's not.
Yeah, they see it after once or
and
twice.
And they're not going below, a reasonable market value. That's the other thing. I think owners think, well, you're just selling my property for cheap, and it's just not the case.
Well, that's it. I mean, you've got some record prices, haven't you? Record price per square foot, record in the street. And I think once the seller sees that level of interest, and no one else can get that level of interest, like, okay, fair enough, that's the market. So Philip Reynolds on YouTube asks, does it make it hard if a property has been in the market for a while?
Yes. So again, we're still discovering this, and hopefully part of all of these conversations will be that we can all learn from it. We're 4 months in. We have taken, I think, of the 12 properties on, I think 3 of them have previously been on the market, and I'll just walk you through all of them because they're all different to some varying degree. 2 of them were on within the last 12 to 18 months, as in they were listed a year ago, have had a good period off the market. And we found with both of those sales, they were normal in following our sort of traction and records, lots of viewings, lots of interest, lots of offers, all hitting the same sort of rates. For those that there was one that we've taken on which has just come off the market with another agency, and we did have to take it on at a reduced level. That much was clear from the outset anyway, and had been discussed with the owner.
How much reduced? Just put a number.
I think they had it listed at around 1.3, and we took it on for 1.15. So yeah, 5%, 7-8% reduction. And the average figures on all of that was down. So our viewing figures weren't up at the 23, 24s. I think we only had 7 or 8 viewings on it. Only 2 offers compared to our usual 4 or 5. And again, all of these things impact you and your position as an agent and how you can negotiate. You're only as confident as what you've got behind you. Because if you've got 8 offers behind you, I promise you it changes the way in which you speak to buyers, which is, take it or leave it. And it's entirely up to you. I don't mind, and I want to help you.
And buyers can sense that as well.
Absolutely.
It's taken the desperation out of every aspect. We're not convincing, we're not begging for business, we're not, it's incredible. And it's having the reverse effect. People are just sort of sitting up and saying, okay, not used to this, and taking action, which is, it's so great.
And you know what this is, in my mind, this is just allowing the market to function normally. That's what you're doing. You're just creating the conditions on a house by house basis to let the market do what the market does. And what it highlights to me is that all of the shenanigans and games and tricks that the industry uses are just clogging up the market and preventing a market from actually being a market.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing that we're we're sort of discovering as part of this, as well as talking about the real life situations that are happening, and what we're trying to do now in documenting it for both socials and just talk about it on a day-to-day basis. I think those are more powerful when you're speaking to clients, real stories, and it will showcase better to them than actually these blanket figures. They're really important to have, and the stats that we've got are really important to demonstrate. But you also don't want to sound like every other agent just boasting about what you're doing that's amazing, and talk about the bad stuff as we're doing, and how you can learn from it. Because when you first started this with us and set out, well, this is what the process should look like, and we come at it from the sort of perspective of, we've been doing this for years, and no one's going to buy into that or do that, or this part here is going to be problematic. And we've sort of slowly just realized over the last 4 months, it just has to be set up in that way. And we have set up quite a few of them in, but those that aren't are going to suffer because of it. And we're going to be able to demonstrate that they could have done things better. But yeah, no, we're learning from it as well. Just coming back to the price reduction and taking on old stock, we also had old stock of ours that we had to say to them, listen, this is the new process, this is what we're doing. And as part of that, we had 10, 12 properties that we just had to say, sorry, thank you, goodbye, good luck with the sale with another agent, because
they refused
to listen. Yeah, well, we very simply say to them that the price that's advertised for is irrelevant. It's what it sells for, the market would dictate. And some bought into it, some didn't. And the 3 or 4 that did, one of them rejected the offers. We got to the point where, and again, fair play to them, we came on different basis. We said to them, we overvalued this, we lied, give us free reign. They got rid of the other agents that were on it, because they were a multiple agency. They gave us sole agency. That was listed at 1.25, with expectations of hopefully him to achieve 1.1, 1.15 normal setup. And we ended up having to reduce it quite significantly to 975 was the sweet spot to actually get the calls and the reaction that we wanted. And we did have, I think, 18 viewings over the next 2 weeks, and 2 offers, and drove the price up, and it got to 1,030,000, and he didn't accept it. And again, we didn't feel in that instance, had we taken that on as a new property, we would have had terms and things to protect us. But we said to him, we'll give it, because at least in that regard, we were able to turn around and say, it's 2 weeks hard work for us. But we will be able to give you definitively the market value. We've lied to you before, but here is going to show you, and you can decide whether or not you want to sell. And they didn't, but they weren't, and they also weren't disgruntled or upset with us. It was much more of a mutual, okay.
They discovered the market and decided that's the limit.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, when we can turn around to sellers and we can show, look, we've had 15, 20 viewings, we've had 4 offers. You can't then say we've clearly found you the best in the market. There's no conversation of like, oh, well, don't worry, we'll hope to get more. It's like those viewing numbers and those offers are going to be the best. And so you can't argue with that.
Got a great question here from someone called Becky Francis on YouTube, who says, I'm interested in what kind of scale variation they get on the offers. For example, if a property is worth 500,000, are they getting lowball offers of 400,000? Can they give us an example? Because basically you've got, am I right, all but one of them, you've got offers over the launch price.
Yes, correct. But yeah, no, we absolutely do. And much like you would in the normal process, as I say, I think the best way to describe this to people is it's taking 6 months worth of marketing and putting it into a 4-week process. Everything that you discover in the traditional way of marketing a property is exactly the same. You have all of the same problems, all of the same subjective opinions, and yes, you get lowball offers. I think on one property, is by way of example, we listed at 750 and ended up achieving 760 as the final price, and we had 2 to 3 people of the 5 to 6 bidders around that 750, 760 mark, and we had one person offer 600,000. £150,000 below the guide price. It's going to happen, but again, as long as you're honest with owners that it's an entrance, but people are going to give different opinions. That's the whole point. Is had we walked in as agents and valued their property and said, well, you could get anything from 600 to 750, that's the sort of ranges people are giving.
Well, I'm looking here. You've got stuff there where you've got 6% over. So there's one of them on 1 million. You've got 1,065,000.
Yeah.
You want one on 1.15, and then you've got 1.2 million. So you've got 50 grand over. So 5%, you're getting multiple percentage over the launch price because you're succeeding in your job, which is to create a market for these homes. So that's the job. That's fantastic. Right. And that's the thing is, again, when you've got multiple viewings and multiple offers, most of the buyers realise there's no point putting in a low offer. I mean, I always say, always make your offer. It doesn't matter. Always make your offer.
To come to one of your points as well, Charlie, I think prospecting, you mentioned to me, you know, how many new prospecting leads have you got from the new business that you've got? A big part in the switch of the day-to-day that I've seen is hours and hours on end would be spent with negotiators calling out on a database, trying to create an urgency. And the risk of almost sounding lazy, it's better for the owner and for the agent for that not to be the case.
Yeah.
And whilst it's good and it's proactive to call out on your buyers, realistically, if they are serious about buying and already looking on your own website, Rightmove, it's all the place they should be, they're going to see it in one capacity or another and make a decision very quickly whether or not they're going to view it, regardless of if you call, email them, no matter how persuasive you are.
I remember when we first started this a few months ago, I remember Andy being astonished at the number of buyer registrations you had.
Yeah. Well, it's really switched our day around. Rather than making loads of outbound calls, 300 to 400 to 500, 600 outbound calls to get 50, 60 calls back, and then have to have quality conversations and convincing people and so on and so forth. You now have the phone ringing off the hook for a brief period. You know, our properties, they've all gone under offer. We've launched one today and we've got one launching tomorrow morning. The phones aren't ringing right now. We're quiet. We can do a bit of social media. We can focus on other things. Whereas we would constantly be trying to create this. You don't need to. We don't have a property to sell right now. It's fine. We've got stuff in the pipe. We've got buyers. We're still having good conversations. But now you've got 40 people calling in about a property, 10 new prospecting leads. They're all seeing firsthand how you operate on a property.
Yeah.
Some of them might not like it at first when you're having to bid and compete against other people, but they're seeing what a fantastic job you're doing. And then you're offering for the seller, and then you're offering to those people the same service. You're getting in a lot more doors. You're getting a lot less resistance. At the very least, that whole opening line of "we don't value" it opens up people's ears.
Yeah.
It is a USP straight off the bat.
And also, you know, we always sort of say that the portals and the website, you know, the pictures, they're just like the windows, you know, but people will look to the price and just discount, you know, they'll just go, no, that's too high, and carry on, you know, scrolling through. Whereas I think in this instance, you know, we all know that looking at pictures, you can't tell an awful lot from a picture. So we're getting people into the property, and then people really buy with their emotions. You know, they go in, they go, oh, this space is just, it's lovely. I can really see myself living here. And they're creating those images in their mind. So getting people through the door
this is the whole point,
like,
getting people through the door is the job of an agent.
Is the job, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if they're not through the door, they're not in the market.
No.
And this is the number one mistake. So, I mean, overvaluing agents know that they're making their life difficult for themselves, but they do it anyway. And you guys used to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Let's not judge anyone else.
No, yeah.
But, you know, when you think that actually, I remember someone, it was a guy who used to run Douglas and Gordon. It was the first agent I ever heard him say, viewings are the lifeblood of estate agents. It's viewings. From viewings, if you've got the viewings, it then flows from there, as long as you've got enough viewings.
Yeah, and I think, and that's also, you know, everyone knows that, you know, with buyer budgets, there is some flexibility there. So I think someone mentioned, you know, well, if you're looking at a property that's $1 million and that's your budget and that's what it was listed for, how are they going to get beyond that? Well, they do, and there's always a little bit of wiggle room there, and there's always scope, you know. Yes, okay, a few thousand on the mortgage, it's like monthly repayments aren't high for, you know, to stretch a little bit. And when if you've been looking for a while and you go in somewhere and you're like, this is my dream home, I mean, we have to manage this, you know, we're managing expectations day in, day out. But it does, people can stretch if they want to, if they can see this is, you know, where I'm going to be for the long term. So there's just so many moving parts, and I think what this process is helping us to do is just very quickly manage those moving parts and really help people not only move, but, you know, buy properties that they can move into. You know,
one of the things that I love about it is before you were doing this, so much of the effort that you were having to put in every day was just flogging a dead horse.
Yeah.
It's just soul destroying, isn't it? And now you're busy, but almost everything you're doing is because there's interest, there's progress, there are offers. It's all valuable task time rather than speculative task time. You know, you're not ringing out trying to get interest anymore.
Yeah.
It's different. I mean,
100%.
and I can just compared to when I came here 4 months ago, the atmosphere in here, it's fantastic. And it's just so nice.
Yeah.
And if you're enjoying the job, it gets easy, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, 100%.
Well, is there anything? I think we should finish up. We go for 40 minutes.
Any more questions?
Is there anything else you'd like to finish up with? Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I'll share one little story with you, which is again at the very beginning of this process. A lot of what Charlie said to us, again, we described it as we were sort of an RSPCA dog with an owner who came and said, "You're going to come and move into my mansion in the middle of the Cotswolds and have a lovely life." And we were like a beaten dog being told we could live this dream life, having had the past and history behind us. But
Well,
you
that's
know,
what I was saying.
no, you were telling us about this amazing mansion that we could live in
Okay.
as this beaten dog, and we were sort of a little bit skeptical because all we'd known all our life was being beaten and put into a cage, and we were sort of, it seemed great in principle, but we couldn't quite see what you were looking at. And I think for the first time, I said to you in yesterday's meeting, I had a client I was on the phone for a Zoom call who had sort of bought into our process and been discussing instructing us, and she'd sent us an email saying she wanted to instruct us, but to reduce our fee to match the other agents. And we sent quite a curt email back, polite, but if you're just basing it on fee, we're probably not the agent for you. If you want to have a discussion on Zoom, we'll do that. And they said they wanted to have a discussion, and it ended up being a 35, 40-minute discussion. But I realised at the end of it all that I probably should have ended it after about the first 5 minutes, and identifying and realizing they weren't the client for us. And again, a lot of my life has been pandering to people and trying to sort of bend over backwards, when really, when you have a proven working product that just benefits everyone, you're very quickly going to identify that actually you don't need to take on every instruction, and actually you're better off avoiding them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the fee is justified, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now I'm going to wrap it up. Jess, thank you. Alex, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to just say thank you to everyone that's watched. Thank you for your questions. And if you are an agent watching this who would like to no longer have to lie to people about the value of their house, and no longer have to try and drum up interest and get viewings for property that you know is overpriced, follow BestAgent on social media. So bestagent.co.uk, all the best agents on social media, and start following this process. Because what I do know is that agents hear me talk about this, and just like you said, you feeling like that beaten dog. It sounds too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So you just carry on getting beaten.
Yeah, exactly.
But if another agent wanted to ring you up and just ask, "Is this really real?"
Go for it.
Yeah.
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 Come work for us. We'll be expanding soon.
Yeah. If you're an agent watching this, and you wonder if it's real, just call Carringtons in Kingston. Okay, and ask them about it. Otherwise, everyone else, thank you very much. If you are a seller watching this, talk to your agent and say, right, I don't care about the asking price. I want viewings. I want people through the door. What do we have to do in launch price to get that to happen? If you know someone else that's about to sell their property, just make sure that they don't go with an agent because they've valued it. And whatever they do, do not sign alongside the contract. And if you are someone who lives in the Kingston area, what are the areas you cover? Kingston.
Anywhere within a 5-7 mile radius of Kingston.
Yeah,
Kingston,
Rains
Kingston,
Park, New
Putney.
Malden,
like-
Surbiton.
To actually sell your house,
Yeah.
rather than just sign a contract with someone that says you can't leave us, but we're going to keep it in the market for 6 months. Get in touch with Carringtons in Kingston,
Half the properties.
and follow Carringtons. If you're in Kingston, follow Carringtons social media. 500 people watching this.
Okay.
Anyway, good to say goodbye.
See you
Bye,
later.
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you.